Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The Zanu PF factional war is hotting up. It's now becoming no holds barred. I don't think many people will be surprised by that. That is to be expected. When the party boasted that Zanu Ropa, as much as they meant they will shed innocent blood of the ordinary people, the thugs are also showing that when they fight among themselves, there are no holds barred. In this video clip, Temba Mliswa is commenting on what happened on Tuesday when there was a power cut during Mnangagwa's State of the Nation address. He's got his explanations on who was responsible. I'm not really interested in that. What I'm interested in is that he is trying to come up with a false narrative of Zimbabwe's history. He is claiming in this video that Mnangagwa was democratically elected. That is the kind of nonsense that no Zimbabwean out there should tolerate. Mnangagwa was never democratically elected. Let's get that one very clear. Do not try to import false narratives in your factional wars, particularly falsifying the nation's historic facts. I repeat, Mnangagwa was never democratically elected. Never. I'd like you to listen to his concluding remarks when he does refer to the claim that Mnangagwa was democratically elected.
What I want to commend is that we have a president who is a guru in security, one that was meant to make everybody panic because the place became dark. Okay. But he continued with his speech for the last 10 minutes. What a warrior we have in the president. These positions are spiritual too, from a religious point of view and central. Vakazodzwa president, and he will never panic. But it exposes quite a lot and action needs to be taken. The president is a kind man. For the first time I'm saying to him, you cannot be kind to people who are pushing for your downfall. It's about time we expose. There are too many people before the Zanu PF conference who were sitting on the fence, who were eager to get him out. But he prevailed over everything because he remains calm and so forth. But atingarere nyoka mumba president. Atingarere nyoka mumba nekuti vana venyu vachatanga kurumwa vorumwa imimi mozopetsa makurumwa nenyoka idzodzi. We know who the snakes are, and some of us have stood for the right things. When we defend the president, I don't have to know him. He is the head of state. He won the elections democratically, and it's a democratic process.
Well, let's get that one very clear. When did Mnangagwa win the democratic elections? Mnangagwa got into power on the cocktails of the 2017 military coup. That is not democracy. And we should not forget here that both Mnangagwa and Chiwenga were heavily involved not only in the military coup of 2017, but before that, in the electoral coup of 2008. Here is an account by Dr. Ibo Mandaza of what really happened in 2008.
I also know that Mugabe conceded defeat on 2008. He phoned Mbeki and Obasanjo to concede defeat. I hope that Thabo Mbeki and Obasanjo will one day make that public. But one of them, I won't say which one, told me that Mugabe phoned them that Saturday night and said, look, I lost election and I concede defeat. And I know that Mugabe stuck to his guns, was prepared to go. His wife was since bags packed to go somewhere on the following day when Mnangagwa and Chiwenga approached him and said, you stay where you are. And then they contrived the runoff, sadly with the help of South Africa. And runoff took place, very violent. 360 people were killed. The South African, I came here as part of a delegation to Cape Town to see members of the ANC. I don't want to mention names, they're my friends. I saw them, and through them, a cabinet committee subcommittee of South African cabinet was set up on the Zimbabwe issue. It was on the basis of that cabinet committee that South Africa did not recognize the runoff. And indeed, it was the basis of that committee that Thabo sent the generals to South Africa, to Zimbabwe. I met them, and I was one of the few to have read the report, because I was flying to Joburg in the company of General Romano, who was a friend. He passed away, no? That's why, yeah. And I also took people who had lost their hands in the violence to the South African embassy in Harare. And Romano broke down in tears. How can a liberation movement treat these people like that? He was a broken man. So there's no doubt at all here in South Africa as to the brutality of the regime in Harare. So it amazes me, it angers me, in fact, when I hear the nonsense coming out of people like Mbalula's mouth. They know it. And the report has never...
So we know who President Mnangagwa is and President Chiwenga is. These are not Democrats. These are individuals who were prepared to launch the so-called Operation Mafutira Papi in 2008 to punish Zimbabweans because they had dared reject Zanu PF in the only free, fair, and credible election the nation has ever held since independence. The people were punished for that. At the end of the coup, they promised that they were going to hold free, fair, and credible elections. The two individuals who now were president and vice president respectively rigged the 2018 elections and go on to rig the 2023 elections. So when people like Temba Mliswa want to distort the historic facts and pretend that Mnangagwa was democratically elected, that cannot be allowed to go unchallenged. Zimbabwe is a failed state. We are in this economic and political mess because for the last 45 years and counting, the nation has failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections, and so has found itself stuck with the same corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical regime. Zanu PF rigged 2023 elections. Both SADC and our own regional body, SADC, our own regional body, and the AU, the continental body, election observers, condemned those elections as flawed and illegal. What did Mnangagwa do? He dismissed it with contempt. Deja vu. And in his State of the Nation address, he did not even mention that the regime is going to carry out any meaningful democratic reforms to make sure that 2028 we do not repeat the same mistake. All he's fighting for is how can I extend my stay in power. If you're going to defend Mnangagwa, you can do so, Temba. But please, do not insult the intelligence of the people of Zimbabwe and pretend that they ever elected him president. SADC and the AU dismissed the 2023 elections as flawed and illegal. Mnangagwa is illegitimate. How could somebody who is illegitimate still claim that he was democratically elected? Elected by who? We don't want to be involved in a factional war. But when you start distorting historic facts, you will not be allowed to carry on with your idiotic lies. Mnangagwa is a tyrant. He has got blood of many innocent Zimbabweans. Mnangagwa has been involved in the rigging of elections and in the political murders that have taken place since the country's independence in 1980. Mnangagwa is not a Democrat. Mnangagwa and Chiwenga should by right be in prison. But the very fact that they now occupy the highest offices in the land goes to show why the country is in a mess. But at least let's respect historic facts. I repeat, Mnangagwa was never democratically elected by any Zimbabwean. This is a historic fact. He got into the president on the cocktails of the 2017 military coup, and ever since he has rigged elections to stay in power. That is a historic fact. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.